In today's episode, we are going to discuss the power of your brain. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because I discovered something that is completely life-changing for those that want to start implementing in their own lives. So if we dive a little deep here in the brain, we all understand that the brain is a problem-solving tool, as I like to call it. Every single day in life, we are always presented with problems. We all know that. Whether that be problems in school, whether it be problems at work, whether it be problems at home, maybe with a spouse, maybe that's with friends, maybe that's with things online, social media, maybe problems with life in general. We deal with a lot of things. We deal with a lot of problems and issues and whichever. And it is our brain's job to solve these issues, is to solve these issues as they come along, because our brain understands when these problems exist. Its duty is to solve them right then and there, regardless if you are refusing to not want to solve them. And if you are going through a weekend, if you're going through a phase in your life where you just don't want to deal with it, you just don't want to deal with all the problems of the world, you just don't want to deal with the problems that you have currently in your life, and then you realize how frustrated you are, you realize how more negative you're becoming, you realize how much more frustrated and stressed out you are. And morally so, it's because of the problems that you keep avoiding. The reason why I say that is because your brain is a problem-solving tool. Your brain, if you don't give your brain anything to solve, your brain is going to create problems for it to solve. And the thing about the human brain is a lot of us tend to avoid these issues, which then creates a default for the mind in how we think. Because when you look at human beings, the natural reaction that you get from humans in general is that you're going to get generally a more negative outlook from them or a negative reaction from people. Because everything is so kind of uncertain right now, you just never know what you're going to get with people, but most of the time, you're going to get a more negative reaction. It is just built in the human brain. So with our brains being problem-solving devices, and also our brains generally seeking more towards negativity as the default, the reason why it's defaulted towards the negative side is because our brain's always looking for problems. And generally, people don't like problems. But at the same time, your brain generally doesn't really care about the little things of life, such as like happiness, success, love, fulfillment, money. These are a lot of things that people want in life, right? But it's not generally something that the brain needs. And what I mean by that is when you look at ancient times, when you look at the evolution of humans, the one thing that the brain was always poised to be so successful at is ensuring that we survive as humans and as species. Think about all the years that humans have been on this earth. Think about the present day currently right now and how we are living in today's society, today's world. We are so fortunate to have clean drinking water. We are so fortunate to have supermarkets that we can go to buy produce, to buy groceries and whatnot. We are so fortunate to take transportation. There's a lot of people in the world right now that aren't so fortunate like we are, that are still surviving no matter what. They're always finding solutions towards their problems, and they're finding ways to ensure that they're able to survive for many more years to come. And it's because of the development of the human brain, seeking that survival mechanism. Your brain doesn't care about love, happiness, and such, although those are great things that you can feel over time. But the brain's generally only caring about what it can do to A, solve problems, and B, survive. But when we take a look at all the different aspects of life in general and the many things that we react to, there are only two different states that the mind has. The first one is a beautiful state, and the second one is a suffering state, or as I like to call it, a negative state. So in the first state, which is the beautiful state, what that generally is picture this as if it's like your heaven. Picture this as if it's like a place that you want to be at all times. You're grateful, you're feeling happy, feels like heaven, you're feeling, peace, love, calmness, connection, passion. it feels good. It feels extremely empowering. You feel awake, you feel present, and you feel intentional. And then there's a second state, which is the suffering state or the negative state. It feels not so great. It doesn't feel that great at all. You feel stressed, depressed, you feel anxiety, you feel a lot of worry about, the uncertainty. You feel frustration, anger, sadness, fear. You feel loneliness. It's disempowering. It's certainly like you're asleep. You're not present. You're not really thinking much. You're generally on autopilot. It doesn't feel so good, does it? So within these two states, generally people default towards the suffering state because of the issues that we generally have in our lives and the problems that we generally face or don't face. But to get towards a more positive and more beautiful state, you have to take a look at the way you're reacting to certain situations. For example, let's say you got fired from your job today. Many people will self-obsess. They'll think about themselves only. They'll say, what will I do? How will I pay the bills? What would my wife say? Or what would my husband say? What will everyone think of me? It's always me, me, me. Why did they fire me when many other people were worse than me? When the real challenge behind you getting fired is not actually the fact of what's wrong with you. The real challenge here is actually you finding a new job. So the challenge is you getting fired, and the reaction is generally your choice. So the state that you're in will generally dictate what your reaction would be. So generally when people are in a more suffering state, they're usually more in a kind of victim mentality. So generally when they say they get fired, they generally think, why is this happening to me? They're asking the disempowering questions. Why is this happening to me? What will I do? How will I pay the bills? They're generally very negative in their reactive state. But what they should actually start saying is the exact opposite, which is the more beautiful state, the more empowering state. They have to ask the questions of, instead of why is this happening to me, you have to start asking yourself, what is this trying to tell me? Right? Presenting opportunities for you, which is the challenge is to now look for a new job, right? We can cry about the being fired and, but generally those are all in the past. And the solution to all this is just looking for a new job, looking for that new opportunity, because you never know if that firing was the opportunity for you to start getting paid more, maybe put yourself in a brand new position, which you end up loving. It just presents a whole new opportunity for you. But that's only if you start reacting to things more in a more empowering state. Or let's take, for example, rejection. I'm not a huge fan of rejection. My whole life I've been ingrained in my head that rejection is bad. People that say no to me is bad. But that's generally not the case. So an example of a disempowering and suffering reaction to rejection would be, what if everyone says no to me? What if I fail at this? What if everyone hates my product? What if people hate my services? What if I'm not good enough to do any of this? Well, when you impose the opposite in a more empowering and beautiful state, you start telling yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I improve my presentation or my product or services? What can I do differently to make sure that the next person says yes? There is two total opposite questions to gear yourself more towards either the negative state or more towards the beautiful state. It all just depends on the way that you speak to yourself.